So here's the situation. I am 26 years old. I work 4 days a week at a print shop called Bergman Graphics, running a machine that folds paper into thirds. And 3 nights a week, I babysit a 4-year-old for $14 an hour. Cash, no taxes, no questions. That's the whole resume. That's it. If you met me at a wedding and asked what I do, I would tell you about the print shop and then change the subject to the food, because the second half of the answer tends to stop conversations. My roommate thinks it is the funniest thing that has ever happened to anybody. His name is Desmond Pyle. Everybody calls him Des, and he's been writing me about it since the day I took the job. He does this thing where he answers the door in a bathrobe, holding a wooden spoon, and calls me Mrs. Doubtfire every single time. He has done it probably 40 times now, and he laughs like it is brand new. The thing is, I am good at it. I am not good at very much. I am not good at the print shop. I am functional at the print shop, which is a different word. But I am legitimately good at watching this kid. Her name is Nola Marsh, and she is 4.5, and the half is important to her, so I say it. She is small for her age, and she talks constantly, and about 1/3 of what she says is real information, and the other 2/3 is stuff she is making up while her mouth is already moving. She has a stuffed rabbit named Bark, which is a terrible name for a rabbit, and I have never once pointed that out to her, because it is her rabbit, and she can name it whatever she wants. I know the whole system. I know she will only drink out of the yellow cup, and if the yellow cup is in the dishwasher, I have to run it under the tap and dry it with a towel while she watches, because if I hand her a different cup, she will not say anything. She will just hold it and look at it, and then the whole night is uphill. I know she eats green beans if I call them dinosaur sticks and lays them out in a row first. I know bedtime is bath, then pajamas, then 2 books, then the hallway light on but the bedroom light off, then the door open the width of my hand. My hand, she checks. I have watched her sit up in bed and eyeball that gap. I know that if I skip a step, she will not tell me I skipped it. She will just lie there in the dark, not sleeping, until somebody fixes it. And it took me 3 weeks to figure that out, and I felt like garbage the entire 3 weeks. I do the voices in the books. Nobody is watching. There is no bonus for doing the voices. I do them anyway.
You do the voices? Alone? In an empty house? Danny, that's the saddest thing I've ever heard, and I once watched a man eat a birthday cake by himself at a bus station.
Her mom is Jenna. Jenna works in billing at the hospital, 4 to midnight, and she is one of those people who is permanently 11 minutes behind where she needs to be. She is nice to me in a way I do not think I have earned yet. Every time she pays me, she says thank you like I did her a favor instead of a job. Her husband is Greg, regional sales for a company that makes commercial flooring, and he is gone Monday through Thursday and loud on the weekends. When he is home, he calls Nola Bud and Big Guy, which is not what she is. And she does not correct him, and I have thoughts about that which I keep to myself because he pays half my rent. The house is a 1950s Rambler on Cutler Street, low and long brown siding, a big silver maple in front that drops enough leaves to bury a car. It has a basement under about 2/3 of it and a crawl space under the rest. And the crawl space has a little wooden hatch down behind the water heater that I have opened exactly once on my first night looking for the breaker box before I found out the breaker box is in the garage. The money is the reason I said yes. I owe about $9,000 on a car that is worth about $2,000, and I have a stack of mail on the kitchen counter that I sort by whether the envelope has a window in it. The ones with windows go on the bottom. So when Jenna offered me 3 nights at $14 an hour, I did not negotiate. I said yes so fast, she looked a little worried about me. Here is the part I did not expect. About a month in, I started looking forward to it. Not the money. The nights. Some Tuesday, I would be standing at the folder at Bergman watching 11,000 pieces of paper go through and thinking about whether Nola had gotten over the thing where she was scared of the bathroom drain, and I would realize I was in a decent mood for no reason. A 4-year-old is the only person in my life who thinks I am impressive. She thinks I am impressive because I can reach the top shelf. That is a low bar, and I am clearing it with room to spare, and it feels good, and I am aware of how that sounds.
Danny, listen to me. This is a cry for help, and I am here for you. You are a 26-year-old man, you got a whole-ass beard, and 3 nights a week you put on a backpack and go read fucking Goodnight Moon to a stranger's baby.
She is 4. She is not a baby, and it is not Goodnight Moon. She thinks Goodnight Moon is for babies. We are doing chapter books now.
Chapter books? Oh God, man, that is so much worse. So much worse than what I said. You have a damn series going. You have a bookmark in a kid's book?
I do have a bookmark in a kid's book. We are 11 chapters into a thing about a mouse who is a knight, and it is not bad actually, and I am not going to defend that further. Des is unemployed, for the record. He got laid off from a warehouse in February and has been living on a settlement from a car accident and applying to jobs at a rate of about 1 a week, and he has strong opinions about everybody's life choices except his own. He is also, and I mean this, my best friend since we were 15. He's the person who drove 4 hours to get me when my transmission went out in a town I could not spell. He can call me Mrs. Doubtfire all he wants. Anyway, that is the setup. Print shop Des, 3 nights a week on Cutler Street, a stack of mail with the windows on the bottom. All of that was normal. It was the most normal stretch of my whole life, and it sits in me funny now.
Danny, nobody says your tire is going to be flat.
That is the first one. That is the very first thing. She says it on a Wednesday in the middle of September while I am cutting up an apple, and she says it in the same voice she uses to tell me that a squirrel came in the yard, which is to say she is not warning me, she is just relaying the news. I ask her who nobody is.
Nobody is the name of my friend. Nobody lives under the house. Nobody is not allowed to come up. That's the rule.
I tell her that sounds like a good rule.
It's a very good rule.
So that is settled. Then she eats the apple slices in order from smallest to largest, which is a thing she does. And then we play the game where I am a bear and I have to find her, and she hides in the same spot every time. And I take 4 full minutes to find her every time, and she has never once suspected that I am doing that on purpose. I did not think about nobody again for about 14 hours. Then I came out to my car at 7:20 the next morning, and my front passenger tire was flat on the pavement like a dropped water balloon. And listen, I know what that is. That is a nail. I drive a 2009 Corolla with 190,000 miles on it, and tires I bought, used from a guy behind a gas station. And if you had asked me to bet money on whether any of my tires would go flat in a given month, I would have taken that action. But I stood there in the parking lot of my apartment building at 7:20 in the morning with my keys in my hand, and I got a cold feeling on the back of my neck, and it took me a second to figure out why, and then I remembered a 4-year-old telling me about it over apple slices. I put on the donut. I went to work. By lunch, it was a funny story. Here's the thing about the first one. It is only strange for about a day. Then your brain, which is a very helpful organ, goes through and files it. Kid heard her mom say something. Kid saw the tire. Kid says stuff all the time, and this one happened to land. If you say enough things, some of them come true, and a 4-year-old says roughly 900 things per hour. That is what I did with it. I filed it. I have filed a lot of things. The second one comes 8 days later. Des has an interview at a distribution center out on the county road, which is the first interview he has had since the spring. And he is pretending not to care about it in a way that makes it obvious he cares enormously. He ironed a shirt. I did not know he owned an iron. I am at the Marsh house that night, and Nola is on the kitchen floor with about 200 plastic animals arranged by a system I have never been able to crack, and she does not look up when she says it.
Nobody says your friend will get the job. You know, your loud friend?
I ask her which friend.
The loud one. The one that calls on the phone and makes you go outside.
Which is Des. Des calls and I take it out on the porch because he talks at a volume that fills a house. I ask her how nobody knows that. She shrugs. She actually shrugs. This tiny 4-year-old shrug.
Nobody just knows stuff. Danny, could a hippo beat up a bear?
We spend the next 20 minutes on the hippo-bear question. It is a good question. I take the hippo. She takes the bear. And she has a whole argument prepared about claws. And I concede. Des got the job. He found out Friday. He came home and did a lap around the apartment with his shirt off, yelling, and I stood in the kitchen with a beer and felt something in my chest that was not entirely happiness. I mentioned the interview at the Marsh house. I must have. I take those calls on the porch, but the window is right there, and kids hear everything, and Jenna and I talk while she is getting her coat on. There is a chain of custody for that information that does not require anything unusual at all. I told myself that. I told myself that on Friday, and I was still telling myself that in October. And I would like to say I was lying to myself. But honestly, I believed it. It is easy to believe. It is the easiest thing in the world. The first night I hear it is a Wednesday, late, maybe 11:15. Nola has been down since 8. I am on the couch with my laptop, watching a documentary about a submarine with the volume at 2. And the house is doing all the normal house sounds. The furnace kicking, the fridge, the maple scratching the gutter. And there is a floor register in the hallway between Nola's room and the bathroom. It is an old metal one, painted over about 9 times. And it sits right where the crawl space is, instead of the basement. I hear breathing coming out of it, not loud. If the furnace had been running, I would not have caught it. Slow and wet at the end of each one, like somebody with a bad chest lying on their back and spaced out wrong, way too long between them. I counted because I am an idiot, and that is what I did instead of leaving, and it was about 9 seconds between each one. I sat on that couch and did not move for a very long time. Eventually, I got up and I walked down the hall, and the closer I got, the quieter it got. And by the time I was standing over it with my socks on the metal, there was nothing at all, just cold air coming up, which is what a crawlspace does in September in a house with no insulation under it. I looked down through the slats with my phone light. I could see about 4 inches of duct and then black. A braver man goes and gets a flashlight and pulls that register up. I did not. I stood there for a while, and then I went back to the couch and turned the submarine documentary up loud enough to cover the house. When Jenna got home at 12:20, I asked her about the ducks, real casual, and she answered it like a woman apologizing for her own house.
Oh, that whole crawl space. The people before us never sealed a thing down there. When the wind comes out of the north, it whistles like a tea kettle. I'm so sorry. I keep meaning to get somebody out here.
She was not sorry enough to have anybody out there, and I do not blame her, because there is always something. Then she paid me and said thank you, like I had done her a favor. I sat in my car in the driveway for a second before I pulled out. The house was dark except for the hallway light and the little gap under Nola's door. Here is the thing. There was a night, right around then, where I could have just quit. Nothing had happened. I had heard a noise in a duct. I could have texted Jenna and said, "Hey, I got more hours at the shop, sorry," and that would have been the end of it. And I would be a guy with a weird story he tells sometimes. I did not quit because I liked the job, and I liked the kid, and I needed the money in that order. That order is accurate, and it does not flatter me.
Nobody says Shauna had a bird on her arm. Right here, a blue one.
She taps the inside of her own forearm, up near the elbow. We are at the kitchen table doing stickers. It is a Monday. She's been putting stickers on a piece of construction paper for 40 minutes and narrating the whole time about a family of horses. And this comes out in the middle of it with no seam at all. I ask her who Shauna is.
Shauna was the one before you.
And I did not know that. Not a hint of it. I did not know there was a sitter before me. Jenna never mentioned one. When she hired me, she said they had been doing daycare and it stopped working out, and I never asked a follow-up question, because who does? I asked Nola if Shauna was nice. She thinks about it seriously. She has a very serious face when she is thinking. Her whole forehead gets involved.
She was nice at the start, then she got quiet.
I ask what that means,
She stopped doing the voices.
and I get a feeling in my stomach that I have not been able to describe to anybody since. I bring it up to Jenna that night, just conversationally, coat on, keys in her hand.
Shauna, yeah. Shauna Pratt. God, that was February. She was here about 5 months and then she just stopped showing up. No call, no text, nothing. She was young. She was like 20. I think she just got sick of it. I felt bad. I really liked her. Nola loved her.
I ask, and I try to make it sound like nothing, if Shauna had any tattoos.
Yeah, actually, it was a swallow, right here. She was so proud of that thing. She'd explained the whole meaning of it to anybody who held still long enough. It was cute. She was 20.
Then she taps the inside of her own forearm, up near the elbow, in the exact same place Nola tapped. She says goodnight. She says thank you. She goes to bed. I drive home doing 30 and a 45, with both hands on the wheel. And by the time I get to my apartment, I have talked myself all the way back down. And it was easy. It was so easy. Nola knew Shauna. Nola was 3.5 when Shauna was here. And 3.5-year-olds remember things. And a bright blue bird on somebody's arm is exactly the kind of thing a kid remembers. There is nothing here. There is a kid who remembers her old babysitter and has folded that memory into a game about a friend under the house. That is a complete explanation. It covers every single fact. I went to sleep fine. I actually did. The old woman across the street is named Eileen Krupa, and she is somewhere north of 75, and she is outside constantly in a canvas coat, doing something to her yard that never appears to change the yard. She has talked to me maybe 6 times, always about the weather or my car. In October, she waves me over while I am walking up the Marsh's driveway, and she does not do weather.
You're the one that watches the little girl?
Yes, ma'am. 3 nights a week.
How long you been at it?
Since around June.
The other one made it about 5 months.
I stand there in the street with my backpack on, and I ask her what she means by that.
That house has always been like that, since the Vandermeers had it, and that was before you were born. There's something wrong under it, and everybody who buys it finds out at their own speed. The Vandermeers had a boy that talked to the floor. Whole neighborhood knew. Nobody said a word about it, because that's how people are around here. They'd rather a child suffer than say something at a barbecue.
What happened to him?
He grew up and moved to Arizona, and he is fine, as far as I know. It doesn't want children. It never has. I have watched that house for 41 years, and I will tell you what it takes. It takes whoever's hired. It took a girl who came and cleaned for them in the 80s, and it took that little blonde thing that was here before you, and I told her the same as I'm telling you. And she smiled at me like I was a crazy old woman, which is what you're doing right now with your face.
I was. That is what my face was doing. Give me a little credit here. An elderly woman I barely know stopped me in the street and told me a house was haunted and named a decade. If that happens to you, you make the face. Everybody makes the face. But I asked her one more question before I went in, and I do not know why I asked it. I asked her what she thinks it is.
I think it's lonely, and I think it's old, and I think it has learned to be polite. That's what ought to frighten you. It has had a very long time to get good at asking.
The drawing shows up on the fridge in the last week of October. Nola draws constantly, and Jenna puts everything on the fridge. So the fridge is a solid wall of paper about 2 inches deep, and you have to peel back layers to find anything. This one is on top because it is new. It is the family. That is clear. There is Jenna with yellow hair and Greg with a rectangle for a body and Nola in the middle. And off to the left there is me, and she has drawn me with a beard, which is a whole square of brown scribble under my face. And I am not going to lie. I liked that. She put me on the family paper. I stood there in a kitchen and got a little emotional about a drawing, which is the kind of thing that happens to you when you are 26 and nobody has needed you for anything in a while. Then there is the fifth one. It is behind the house, which she has drawn as a box with a triangle on it. And it is under the ground line, which she has drawn as a wavy brown stripe across the bottom of the page. It is long. It is way too long. It takes up the whole bottom of the paper end to end, and it is drawn in that flat gray crayon that comes in every box and nobody ever uses. It has arms coming off it at intervals that do not correspond to shoulders. There are more than 2. I counted 5, and one of them might be a leg. It does not have a face. She drew faces on the rest of us, circles and dots and a mouth on every single one of us, and on that one she just left it blank, which is somehow so much worse than if she had drawn teeth. Under it, in the letters she is learning, she has written N-O-B-D-Y. I asked her about it in a very light voice. I asked if that was her friend.
That's nobody.
I asked why she did not draw a face.
Because you can't look at it. It's not allowed. If you look at it, you have to stay.
She said that, and then she asked me for a granola bar. I gave her a granola bar. That is what I did. I gave her a granola bar, and I got the yellow cup out of the dishwasher and ran it under the tap, and I put the drawing back where it was, and at 8 o'clock, I read her 2 chapters about the mouse knight and did all the voices, and at 11:15 I sat on that couch and listened to the register in the hallway, and there was nothing. I did not take the drawing. It stayed on the fridge for the rest of the time I was in that house, and eventually it got covered up by newer ones. The tea party is the first one that gets to me physically. It is the second week of November, and I come out of the bathroom, and Nola has set up her whole plastic tea, set on the living room rug. 4 cups, 4 plates, the little pot. She is sitting on one side. Bark, the rabbit, is propped on another. And on the third side, between the couch and the coffee table, she has pulled out one of the kitchen chairs, dragged it in there. That chair weighs almost as much as she does, and I did not hear a thing. The plate in front of it has crumbs on it. Not pretend crumbs, not a pretend plate with nothing on it, which is what the other 3 plates have, because that is how tea parties work. Real crumbs, the orange kind off a cheese cracker, in a little scattered arc like somebody ate over the plate. I asked her who the extra seat was for.
Nobody came up for a minute today. But it's okay. It was only a minute. And then nobody went right back down.
And I said, and I remember exactly how my voice sounded. I said, "Hey, sweetheart, I thought nobody was not allowed to come up." She looked at me with this completely open face.
Not usually, but you were in the bathroom.
I got down on the floor of that living room, and I looked under the couch and behind the recliner, and I went through every room in that house with the lights on. I checked the closets. I checked behind the water heater at that little wooden hatch, which was closed and had a hook and eye latch on the outside, and the hook was in the eye. Nothing. Empty house. A 4-year-old and me. I ate the rest of the cheese crackers myself, out of the box standing at the counter, because I wanted to make sure I knew where the crumbs came from, which is a genuinely insane thing to do, and I did it. Then I put on a show about a dog who was a firefighter, and I sat next to her on the couch, and she leaned on my arm and fell asleep there around 7:40. And I carried her to bed, and I did the hallway light and the gap, and I sat in the driveway afterward for 20 minutes.
Okay, so you're telling me the kid put out crackers? That's it? Danny, my man, my brother in Christ, the kid put out crackers for her imaginary friend, which is what imaginary friends are for.
She dragged a kitchen chair 15 feet across 2 rooms, and I did not hear it.
You on the toilet, bro. You don't hear nothing on the toilet. You're famously gone in there. I could move out this motherfucker and you wouldn't notice till Thursday.
She said it came up because I was in the bathroom.
Yeah, 'cause it's her bit, man. She's got a whole world going. Bro, when I was 5, I had a friend named Sergeant Bill. This motherfucker lived in the dryer and I made my mom set a plate for him at Thanksgiving. That's all normal. That is a normal, healthy, weird little kid.
He was right on every single point. Every single thing he said was more likely than the alternative. I got the monitor recording 11 days later. Jenna has one of those baby monitors with a camera, and it is set up in Nola's room even though she is too old for it, because Jenna keeps meaning to take it down and does not. It saves clips to an app when it detects sound. Jenna has the app. I do not have the app. But she left her tablet on the counter one night, unlocked, and it was open. And the newest clip was from the previous Thursday at 2:19 in the morning, which is a time when I am not there. And neither is Greg. I played it. Nola is asleep. You can see her, the green night vision, on her side with Bark. She is not moving. Her mouth is not moving. I watched it 4 times, and her mouth does not move. There is talking on it. It is her voice. It is a little girl's voice, high and mushy, and it is definitely coming out of that room. But it is talking too fast, and it does not stop for breath. It goes for about 50 seconds without a break anywhere in it, and there are words in there that a 4-year-old should not have. I caught the word arrangement. I caught the word replacement, and under it, way down under it, so low that the little speaker on the tablet could barely carry it, there is a second sound, at the same time, at the same rhythm, like a hand on a bass string. 2 voices saying the same thing. One of them hers. I recorded it off the tablet with my phone, held my phone up to the screen like an animal, and got the whole 50 seconds. I played it for Des in the car outside our building that night. He did not have anything funny to say, which had not happened in 11 years. He listened to it twice, and then he asked me to send it to him, and I did, and the file went through at 0 kilobytes. I sent it again, 0. I opened it on my own phone, and it was 49 seconds of silence with a picture of a green tablet screen. And I know how that sounds, and I know how convenient that is, and I do not care. Des heard it. Des was there. Here is where it starts working on me. And the ugly part is that I enjoyed it. It comes through Nola, always, in that flat delivery she uses for everything. She is not being sneaky. She is a phone. Somebody talks, and she repeats it, and then she asks if she can have the tablet.
Nobody says you're the only one who does it right.
I ask what that means.
Mom does the books too fast, and she skips pages. She skips the whole part with the bridge. And Dad doesn't read them. He just puts the show on and looks at his phone. You do all the voices. You never skip.
That is true. All of it is true. Jenna skips pages because she's been awake since 6, and she is human. Greg does not read to her. I have seen him hand her the tablet on a Saturday afternoon and go out to the garage for 2 hours.
Nobody says you're the one that stays.
And I sat there and let a 4-year-old tell me I was a better parent to her than her parents, and I did not correct her. I should have corrected her. It would have taken 9 words. Hey, that is not true. Your mom and dad love you very much, and they work really hard. I did not say it because it felt good. That is the whole mechanism. That is how it does it. It does not lie. It goes and finds the one true thing you are starving for, and it hands it to you, and you take it, and then it hands you another one. By the end of November, I am there 5 nights a week. Jenna did not ask for that. I offered. I said, hey, if you ever need Fridays? And she said she could not afford Fridays. And I said, do not worry about Fridays. I like her. I am not doing anything anyway. Which was also true. I was not doing anything anyway. I started coming early. 20 minutes, then 40. I told myself it was so Jenna would not have to rush. Then I started staying after she got home, standing in the kitchen talking about nothing until 12:40. I gave up 2 shifts at Bergman. Actual money, actual hours, so that I could go sit in somebody else's house for free. Des noticed before I did. He said it in the middle of December.
Danny, hey bro, you basically live there nowadays. You know that, right? You get that that's what's happening?
I got defensive in a way that told both of us everything. Then comes the 2nd week of December and the glove box. I am in the driveway on a Thursday, and I am early, 35 minutes early, and I am killing time in the car with the heat running, and I open the glove box looking for the ice scraper, and the paper falls out. It is a piece of yellow legal pad folded into 8s, soft at the creases, and I wrote it when I was 21 years old. It is a list. It says 5 years at the top in my own handwriting, and under it there are 7 things. Finish the associates, get the tattoo, get out of this town, learn actual guitar, not just the 4 chords, get in shape enough to run a 5K without dying, fix things with my brother, have my own place, no roommate, by 26. I am 26. I have done 0 of them. Not some of them. 0. I did not finish the associates. I have no tattoo. I live 11 minutes from the hospital I was born in. I still play the same 4 chords. I get winded going up to my apartment. My brother and I have not talked since a thing at a funeral 3 years ago, and I share a bathroom with a man who calls me Mrs. Doubtfire. I folded it back up and put it under the registration and went inside. Nola is at the kitchen table. Jenna is in the bathroom doing her makeup. I hang up my coat.
Nobody says it's okay that you didn't do the 7 things.
I stopped with my hand on the coat hook. I asked her, and my voice came out wrong. I asked her what 7 things.
The guitar one, and the running one, and your brother. Nobody says it doesn't matter, and nobody should have to do 7 things. Nobody says you do the important one and everybody else does the ones on paper.
That paper has been in a glove box in a locked car for 5 years. It has never been in that house. It has never been out of that car. Nola has never been in my car in her life. Not one time. Jenna has never let me drive her anywhere. I stood in that kitchen with my coat half off, and I felt the floor stop being a floor. And then Jenna came out of the bathroom, putting an earring in, and said, sorry, I am so late. There is a lasagna in the fridge, and she kissed Nola on the head. And she said thank you to me, like I had done her a favor, and she left. And I made a 4-year-old a lasagna, and I did the voices, and I did the hallway light and the gap. And I drove home, and I sat in the parking lot of my building for an hour and 11 minutes. Because there is no explanation. There is no chain of custody. I had built an explanation for every single thing up to that point, and I was good at it. And the whole structure came down in one sentence from a kid who wanted to know if she could have the tablet. The last thing it says to me before Des goes under the house is the worst one, and it says it through her on a Monday.
Nobody says you're the only one who'd come and get me.
Des went under the house on a Saturday, in the middle of December. That was not my idea, not one bit of it. It was entirely his, and I argued with him about it in a parking lot for 20 minutes, and he did the thing where he starts walking away while you are still talking. His reasoning was that I was going insane, and that he loved me, and that the fastest way to fix a guy who thinks something lives under a house is to go under the house and film it being empty. He had a headlamp. He bought a headlamp specifically. He was so pleased about the headlamp. The Marshes were at Greg's brother's for the weekend, and I had the key because I water their plants, and I let us in like a criminal. And we went down behind the water heater, and I unhooked that little latch and pulled the hatch open. It smells like cold dirt and mouse. It is maybe 2.5 feet from the ground to the joists. There is a vapor barrier down that is torn to hell, black plastic, and it goes back into the dark past where the light gets. Des laid down on his stomach and went in head first, filming.
Okay, so we got some dirt. We've got a lot of dirt. We also got what appears to be a full Mountain Dew can from like the 1940s. Oh shit, we got a dead mouse. That's a nasty one. That motherfucker's been there a while. Danny, are you seeing this? This is the least haunted place I've ever been in my whole ass life. This is just a crawl space, bro.
I am on my knees at the hatch, with my head and shoulders in, and I can see the soles of his boots and the swing of the headlamp on the plastic. He goes maybe 15 feet, out toward where the hall register is, and then the light stops swinging. He does not say anything for about 11 seconds.
What the fuck?
I ask him what.
There's like I don't know what this is. The plastic's pulled back over here, and there's a spot where the dirt's all packed down, shit's packed hard. It's a fucking big oval. It's like, dude, bro, this shit's like 6 feet long, like something's been laying here.
I told him to come back.
Hang on, bro. There's something in the dirt.
I told him to come back again. I said it louder.
It's a shoe. It's a girl's shoe. Why the fuck is a shoe down here, man?
And then his headlamp went out. Not swung away, out. The whole crawl space went black in front of my face, and my roommate was 15 feet inside it, and I heard him say, hey, in a completely calm voice, the way you would if somebody tapped your shoulder in a bar. Then nothing. I went in. I am not brave, and I did not go in fast. I went in badly. Elbows and knees, hyperventilating, with my phone light shaking all over the joists, screaming his name into a 2.5-foot space.
Des.
I got to him in about 40 seconds, and he was sitting up. Sitting up, which you cannot do under there. His head was hard against the floor joists, and he was just sitting there with his back curved and his chin down and his eyes open. I grabbed his coat and I dragged him. He did not help, and he did not fight. I pulled a grown man backward through 15 feet of dirt, and I have no memory of it being hard. We got out into the basement, and I got the hatch shut and hooked, and I sat with my back against the water heater, with my whole body going like a paint shaker. And Des laughed. He laughed, and he wiped his face.
Shit, bro.
And he said the headlamp died. The batteries were from the gas station, and he had gotten spooked in the dark like a little kid, and he was sorry. And the shoe was probably from a kid who lived there in the 70s. He was completely fine. He was fine the whole ride home. He ordered a pizza and made fun of me for screaming. And 4 days later, he came out of the shower and stood in the doorway of my room with a towel around his waist and said something to me in his own voice, in Dez's exact, regular voice.
It'll be an arrangement. It's not a bad one. You should hear the terms before you say no.
I asked him what he just said.
What?
I asked him again, and he stood there dripping on the carpet and got genuinely annoyed with me.
I said I'm getting a pizza. That's what I said. Fuck, bro, you want something on it or not?
That is how it goes for 6 days. He does not know. He has no idea. It comes out of him 3 or 4 times a day, in the middle of other sentences, and his face never changes, and he never breaks stride. And if you did not know to listen for it, you would think you misheard. It came out while he was loading the dishwasher. It came out while he was watching a football game and yelling at the television about a coverage call. And it came out in the middle of the yelling in a completely different register, calm and level, 3 seconds long. And then he went right back to yelling. Some of the things it said, that it has been under 3 houses on that street, and it likes this one best because the dirt is dry, that the family is not the point and never has been, that it can hold a person for about 8 months before there is nothing useful left, and that the arrangement is easier if the person comes down on their own, that Shauna Pratt did not go to Wisconsin. That last one came out over a bowl of cereal. I took Dez to urgent care. I made up a story about a fall. They said he was fine, and they were right. He was fine. That is the thing. Blood pressure fine. Neuro exam fine. A 26-year-old man in excellent health, and I sat in the plastic chair beside him and watched him charm the nurse, and I could not say the actual sentence out loud to a medical professional, because the actual sentence gets you a psychiatric hold and not a solution. On the 7th day, it stopped. Just stopped. Done. And Dez has never said another strange word in his life, and he does not remember any of it. And I have never told him. He knows something happened that December. He knows I got weird. He does not know about the 6 days, and he is not going to hear it from me. I quit on a Tuesday. I sat Jenna down at her own kitchen table at 11:40 at night, and I told her the truth. All of it. The tire, the register, the drawing, the crumbs on the plate, the recording, the 7 things on the yellow paper, Eileen Krupa, the packed dirt, the shoe, my roommate in a towel telling me about terms. I have thought about that conversation more than any other one in my life, because I know exactly what I sounded like. I sounded like a 26-year-old man who has been spending 5 nights a week alone in a house with somebody else's child and has developed feelings about it, and who is now sitting at that woman's kitchen table at midnight telling her that her daughter's imaginary friend is real. She was so kind about it. That is what kills me. She did not get angry. She got scared, and she covered the scared with kindness.
Danny, honey, I think you're working too much. I think we've leaned on you way too hard, and that is on me. That's my fault. I should have seen it. Why don't you take some time, okay? Just take some time.
She paid me for the whole week. She walked me to the door. I heard the deadbolt go before I was down the steps. A better man pushes back there. I did not. I got in my car, and I drove home, and I lay on my bed in my coat, because what was I going to do? Kick the door in? 2 nights later, my phone rings at 9:50, and it is Jenna, and she is not making words. There is a new sitter. Of course there is. She had to work. She found somebody through a friend from the hospital, a nursing student, and the nursing student called Jenna at 9:40 screaming that Nola was gone. Front door locked, back door locked, windows locked. A house with a 4-year-old in it and no 4-year-old in it. I did not tell Jenna to call the police. She had already called the police. I did not say, "I told you so." And I did not say anything at all, actually. I hung up on her mid-sentence, and I drove to Cutler Street doing 70 through a residential zone with my hazards on. There were 2 squads in the driveway, with the lights going, and a cop in the front yard with a flashlight, and Jenna on the lawn in a hospital cardigan with her hands over her mouth, and the nursing students sitting on the front step crying into her sleeves, and none of them were where they needed to be. I went around the side of the house. I went in the basement door that does not lock right, and has never locked right since I have known that house. The hatch behind the water heater was open. The hook was hanging, and I stood there for a second, and I would like to tell you it was courage, but it was not. It was that I could hear her. She was singing. Nola sings this thing when she is content. It is not a real song. It is just noise she makes when she is drawing or eating. And it was coming out of that hole in the wall from a long way back. So I went in. It is different in the dark with your own kid down there. And she is not my kid. I know she is not my kid. I crawled about 30 feet, past where Des had gotten to, past the oval of packed dirt, past the shoe, which is a little white canvas slip-on with a flat pink lace, and it is not a kid's shoe. It is a small woman's, and I did not stop. The crawl space is not supposed to go 30 feet. The house is 52 feet long, but the crawl space is only under the back third of it. I have measured it since. On a satellite photo, with a ruler on the screen, like a lunatic, and I am telling you, it is not that big. Past 30 feet, the joists are gone, and it is just dirt over my head. And it is warm, and then it opens up, and I can stand. Nola is sitting in the middle of the floor, with her legs out in front of her, like she is at circle time. She has bark. She looks up at me, and she is not scared. She is delighted. She is thrilled to see me.
Danny, you came. I told them you'd come.
I get my arms around her, and she is warm and fine and unhurt, and she smells like her shampoo, that stupid strawberry stuff that gets in everything. And for about 2 seconds, I am the happiest I have ever been in my life. And Shauna Pratt is against the wall. She is alive. I need a second with that. She is alive. She has been under that house since February, which is 10 months. And her eyes come over and find me and stay on me. That is the only thing about her that still works the way it is supposed to. She is sitting the way a coat sits when you hang it on a chair back. There is dirt in the part of her hair. She is wearing the other shoe, and she knows me. She has never met me, and she knows exactly who I am, because she has been listening to a 4-year-old talk about me for 6 months, and her eyes come over and she knows. She tries to make a word. I have Nola in my arms, and I am 9 feet from a woman who is 20 years old and still in there. And I run the numbers the way anybody would run them, and I am not going to dress it up. I looked at her, and I decided there was not enough of her left to be worth the trip. That is what I decided. It took about a second and a half. I have never gotten a single one of those 7 things done on that yellow paper. But I made that call fast and clean, like a man who is good at something. She stopped trying to make the word. She let her eyes go off me and back to the floor, and that was worse than if she had screamed, because it meant she had expected it. Then the far side of the room moves. I had this whole idea in my head that when I finally saw it, I would understand something. That is not what happens. What happens is that I get a piece of it in the light off my phone, which is not very much light. I get an arm. It is very long, and it is the gray of a thing that has never been outside. And it comes down out of the dark at the top of the room and puts a hand flat on the dirt about 9 feet from me. And the hand is the size of a dinner plate, and the fingers bend in more places than fingers bend. Then another one comes down beside it, and a third one comes down further back, from higher up. And that is when I stopped looking, because whatever the shape of the whole thing is, my brain took one run at it and refused. I heard it breathe. 9 seconds between, And then it talked to me, and it used Shauna's voice, which is thin and dry, and it was polite. It was so polite. It asked me one question.
Are you going to come back?
And I said yes. I said it fast, without thinking. The way you would if anybody asked you that, because I come back. That is the whole thing about me. That is the one thing on the list of things I am. I show up on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays, and I never once called in. I heard it in the air, about a half second after it left my mouth. The room got very quiet, and the arms went back up into the dark, unhurried, the way somebody puts a pen down when the paperwork is signed. And a small voice in the dirt beside me, a girl's voice, said okay. I carried Nola out. Nobody stopped me. People always ask how I got out, and the answer is that it held the door. She was on that lawn 11 minutes after I went in her mother's arms, and I stood at the corner of the house with dirt in my beard and watched a cop take a statement, and nobody asked me a single question, and that should have told me something right there. The Marshes moved in March. Greg took a position in another state. The house on Cutler Street sold in 9 days. Nola is 6 now. I know that because I know that. It does not work how I thought it would. There was no moment. I did not get dragged anywhere. I went home that night and I made toast, and I went to work in the morning, and I kept going to work for a while, and then a while stopped being a useful word. I am under the house. Not that house. The house they live in now, which is in a different state and has a full basement. And it does not matter, because the arrangement was never about the dirt on Cutler Street. The arrangement is a job. There is somebody under and somebody above, and the somebody under keeps the somebody above company. And every so often the position opens up. Eileen Krupa had it right. It is old, and it is lonely, and it has learned to be polite. They found Shauna Pratt in April, in a ditch off the county road, 4 miles from a house she had not been seen at since February. The coroner could not say where she had been. Her mother drove down from Wisconsin. She was let go the same week I said yes. That is not a coincidence, and I am not going to pretend it is. The position was filled, so she was not needed, and whatever is under there is a great many things, but it is not wasteful. So, I got her out after all. 10 months late, and by accident, and not on purpose, but she is above the ground now, and her mother got to bury her, and that is the one thing on my whole list I ever actually finished. Nola is fine. She is in 1st grade, and she is very good at reading, which I take some credit for. And she does not know that I am here, and I try very hard not to be here, in a way she would notice. But her mother works nights. She still works nights. And there is a girl who comes now, 22 years old, in a nursing program, with student loans and a good way with kids. She kneels down when she talks to Nola. She runs the yellow cup under the tap and dries it with a towel, and she does not act like it is a stupid thing to have to do. She does the voices. She thinks nobody is watching.
Please subscribe for more earhole horror.